evening, everyone. Welcome to the work session of the Oviedo City Council. It is Monday, September 12th. It is approximately 6 p.m. We have 4 members of council present this evening. Councilwoman Draco will not be joining us. Our first item of business tonight is our state lobbying contract for 2016-17. So at this time, I'll turn it over to our city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, we have a contractual relationship with Gray Robinson, PA, for state lobbying services. And each year, before the beginning of the new fiscal year, we like to get together and go over with you issues that may be upcoming in the next state legislative session, and so that we can begin the preparation of their work order of the items that we want them to carry out for us over the next fiscal year. We've included in your staff report the items that were in this year's work order, and obviously some of those things are long-term projects that will probably carry over into the next work order. But we wanted to sit with you, have them come in, give you an idea about what may be coming on the horizon with the state legislature, but also to see if there's anything that you've caught wind of that we need to put on their radar that we can include into the work order for next year. Our plan is to bring the new work order for 16-17 to you, I believe, at your October 3rd meeting. So we'll bring that to you for formal approval. So I'll turn it over to Chris and Robert and let them start the discussion.
Thank you so much, Mayor, Brian. Robert and I are here tonight. I'm proud to be representing you guys. Not present tonight is Chris Dawson. He's actually out of the country, much earned trip. Sent us a picture. He's got a bull fight today.
Lucky him.
Good life, right?
Spain or Mexico?
Spain.
Good for him.
And then we have a new member of our Orlando team, Katie Fleury, who was Jason Broder's legislative aide for 6 years. And she's just joined our team, so we're looking forward to having both of them obviously working on this. And as you may have heard during what I call the off-season after session, before things ramp up, our firm acquired former Speaker Dean Cannon's lobby shop, Capital Insight, which included about 7 lobbyists, including Dean. So as needed, we'll certainly get them involved on matters. As we've told you all many times, there's no pride here. We just want to get it done. Whether it's Robert and I, or Chris or Katie gets to take credit, or someone else on our team. So as needed and as approved by you and your manager, we will bring those folks on board. Do I need to say that?
No.
Could you please?
Unless you asked me to. So we've had a good couple of years here working with you all and having successes in Tallahassee, both on policy and budget issues. And as I've told some of you, and I'll reiterate tonight, we're going to, I believe, have another good 2 years for sure. You have in the House your state representative, Jason Broder, who is going to be on the leadership team of Speaker Richard Corcoran. And in the Senate, you have Senator David Simmons, who, as all of us know, has always been very impactful in the Senate. He's extremely close with the incoming budget chair, Jack Latvala, and just generally is well respected in the Senate body. So working with them, and of course the other folks from around the area, we feel comfortable that the City of Oviedo will have another good 2 years during this next election cycle, both on policy and appropriations. And as I've advised some of you, and I'll say it again tonight, and having looked at the memo provided by Brian, is let's find projects where we think it's important and give kind of some rifle shots to our legislative friends and say these are the things that are going to be most important to us. It also allows Robert and I and our team to also start working on the governor's side early and often to make sure that if we get the feedback or the bad kind of feedback, or I don't think we're going to like this kind of project, we don't waste our time to get it in the budget and then have it vetoed later. We go find projects that can be approved, or we work with them and try to figure out a way that we get them to yes. So we're looking forward to it. I know you guys have appropriations both on the DOT side and on the community project side. We're looking forward to working on those. You obviously have grants, whether it's FERDAP or cultural facility grants that we're going to be working with your team on. Of course, do no evil. Whenever the legislature is in, we always get a little nervous. What is the quote?
No man's life, liberty, or property are safe when the legislature's in session.
Exactly. So we look after that on the policy side. Like the win this year was the backyard shooting range, putting some more teeth in it for the cities to help protect their interest on that, so we don't have neighbors on top of neighbors with guns going off in your backyard. Surprised it took that long, but sometimes it is on some of these issues. But we obviously, on your behalf, work with the do no evil philosophy and protect home rule. As you know, there's a litany of bills filed every year that attacked them, for lack of better terms. 90% of them we
Attack is
successfully-
being kind.
Yes. 90% of them, we, along with other city lobbyists in the league, successfully push back on those. And either water them down so it really doesn't affect you, or outright kill the bills when they go for too much. But every once in a while, some of them slip by. But we certainly work with you all and work with the league to make sure that as many of them as we can, especially the onerous ones, don't make it to the finish line.
You should just, get in the bill. If your city begins and ends in a vowel of O, it doesn't apply.
That's right.
How about that?
Any city located within the county, maybe Seminole, or, we come up with creative ways to do this.
But just to shine a little bit of light or expound a bit on the budget situation, I would point out last week the Revenue Estimating Conference met in Tallahassee. This is the representatives from the House, Senate, Governor's Office, and the state economist that sit down and tell the legislature effectively what they have to spend. Quarterly estimates were down. Now they still expect a surplus, so there will be more money next year than this year. But with the full onset of the tax cuts that have been going into effect in the last 2 years, coupled with some of the spending priorities that that the Senate has laid out, and the fact that the governor wants more tax cuts, if all of those things come to fruition, there's less money to spend next year than there was this year. So just something to keep an eye on. While the budget undoubtedly will be larger next year than it was this year, that doesn't mean there's necessarily more money, if that makes sense. Because of the budget cuts and because of some of the spending priorities that, particularly in the Senate, what has come out in terms of priorities are Senate President Negron has made 2 initial priorities of buying land south of Lake Okeechobee for drainage from Lake O, and then also $1 billion more over the next 2 years for higher education. Those are the 2 things that he's laid out as his sort of lines in the sand. The House has not yet let on their spending priorities, but there will be horse trading, as there always is on this sort of stuff. So just a little bit more color on the issues of the budget. Florida is blessed to have a lot of money to be able to spend, but every year they add on more recurring expenditures and more recurring tax cuts, which means even though the budget grows, it doesn't necessarily mean there's more money. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, constitutionally now, they're required to spend some of the dock stamp tax on water issues. And that's being litigated on what those water issues mean. But I know I told the mayor previously, stormwater, sewage issues that we can make a nexus to water. I don't think this legislature will fight that per se. Right now their focus is on springs. They've made that clear, and I expect Ben Albritton to be back as the Natural Resources and Ag Pros in the House. It's unclear who's going to do it in the Senate, but if Ben's back in the House, I think that focus on springs will stay there. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't start making the case if we want to try to get some state help on updating or improving, so to speak, some of our stormwater and sewage. So be on the lookout for that, because for the next 19 years, since year 1's over, they have to spend a percentage of these dollars before that expires in the Constitution. And then, as Robert said, education is going to be driving the discussion. Other elephants in the room will be workers' comp. They're going to address that early. So to the extent the city has a vested interest on that, obviously there's employees of the city, but if there's other ways too that you want us to look at it, let us know. Because as much as I know they're going to try to do a rifle shot, fix what was declared unconstitutional, they see the writing on the wall of this current Supreme Court that there's other cases working their way through the system that could also have portions of Chapter 440 shot down. So they're working. I think they're going to do a global look at Chapter 440 and workers' comp. Try to do as little as possible, but look at everything so to make sure it stays constitutional going forward. So if there's particular needs or issues that you care about, make sure we know so we can take care of those.
Getting back to the stormwater, so that can be for, I realize it's really not defined right now, but your understanding of it would be for stormwater needs throughout the municipality?
If you can make a case that it's improving water quality or improving land within Florida, like in a preservation sense, it technically fits under that constitutional guideline. Now, again, focus has been on springs, but this legislature...
What about like the Econolachi River?
I'm sorry?
The Econolachi River.
They have a distinction.
Quality or quantity
Outstanding
issues
Florida
with
water.
What's that? Outstanding Florida
Outstanding
water.
Florida
That's it.
water.
Because any type of grant we might be able to get for that could go towards solving other issues.
Yeah, there have been
The golf course
last few
issues that you're
years-
very familiar with.
Right. Yeah, in the last few years, there's been an increase in water projects that have been funded by the legislature, and they're using the Amendment 1 money to do that. And there have been water projects previously, but largely it's been a shell game of moving the money that was going to those type of projects back to general revenue and then applying the Amendment 1 money towards those types of projects. So Chris mentioned that there's litigation ongoing about whether or not the legislature is appropriately enacting the Amendment 1 dollars. But my guess, this is not a legal opinion, it's just my guess, is that the broad use of that money is going to be upheld by the court because the amendment was much more broadly written than the plaintiffs would have you believe in their litigation. I don't know if overstating.
Yeah, their best argument is that since they tied it to the dock stamp, the clear intention was for the state to use money that people pay when they buy a piece of property on buying property to preserve within the state. That is their nexus. There's an argument there. However, the language of the actual amendment itself, except for the funding source that it comes from, is clear that it can be anything. Because the plaintiff's argument would kind of go with the lottery, that since the money was being used to purchase the lottery, maybe this should all be funding schools on gambling, but instead of just schools in general. So I don't think they're going to win. I think, and the legislature's pretty confident about that. But yes, anything on water quality or quantity improvements, you can make that nexus. And because of this money, because it has 19 more years and it's going to keep growing every year, both the House and Senate have set up their separate application process where a member of both chambers need to submit that application on behalf through the committee. So we'll make sure there's appropriate deadlines to put on your and staff's radar so that if we want to make that request and go for money in that way, we can get it all timely filed and then start working with leadership to get them funded, assuming the money is still in the state.
Could that be stretched as far as sewer infrastructure to eliminate septic?
The answer is maybe. So there has been a lot of discussion in Tallahassee about removal of septic. In fact, part of the Springs bill that passed last year, the water quality bill that passed last year, outlawed new septics on parcels less than 1 acre of density per unit. Now, the existing ones there, we've got to figure out how to get rid of them, but there is at least a legislative intent to start getting rid of those and moving folks to sewer. The question becomes who pays for it. You'll recall a couple of years ago, it's probably about 6 or 7 years ago now, then Senator Constantine passed a bill about septic removal, and then abruptly a year later they withdrew the bill or repealed it because of the outcry over who was paying for all that. So now the legislature is looking at an Amendment 1 money might come into this. Should the state be footing that bill? If we're going to make you remove it, should we be paying for it? It's kind of a conversation that's going on. I expect that conversation to continue next year. But generally speaking, the answer is definitely maybe.
Well, I would keep us in mind for that only because the older section of town is, a lot of those folks are still on septic. And nobody wants sewer until their septic cruds out on them, and then everybody complains that they don't have sewer.
No, certainly if the land falls on the spring shed, they're looking at that very closely.
Yeah.
If it doesn't,
I understand they would have to prioritize that. But, all right. I'm sorry.
So that's, there's always stuff that pops up that you never expect, but that's why we're there. We keep an eye on everything and keep you guys apprised of issues, especially ones affecting Hopewell. Like I said at the outset, it's an honor to represent you guys. We enjoy it. You and your team, your staff, and the team are great to work with. You guys obviously pay attention to the issues up there as well. That makes it a lot easier to help effectively advocate. And we're honored to be on the team.
Great. Anybody have any thoughts, ideas, things they should chase?
Chris, I just have 2 things. This is more for Florida in general, but one of the things that we get a lot up here, what certain citizens don't like and lately, is not being able to manage our growth correctly. A few years ago, as you know, the legislature took a lot of power back from us, and I'm sure a lot of cities answered this question, but we need a little more control. If somebody comes in here and wants to put 900 homes and the road is at an F, to make them help us. Now we have this project down here in Orange County with these 4,000 homes, and the one development to grow, this guy has agreed to, from what I understand, 8-lane Highway 50 and do all these kind of improvements or whatever he has to do. I think he's just doing it because he knows he's impacting the roadway network. So this isn't something, I mean, you're gonna go in and say, hey, the city of Oviedo wants their, home.
Well, again,
But-
the vowels O and O.
But
Well, I
we
mean,
need,
especially on land use and development and DRCs and all that, the legislature is more inclined, or they're willing, I guess I should say, to have amendments that, well, they don't say except for Oviedo, you define the boundaries, you define the population, you define the needs in that area. They recognize it's something that they'll never say it publicly, but they recognize that this doesn't fit all, and then sometimes they have to tweak it. So if we have, I mean, or we could go through the route of the local bill on certain things, but if there's a specific need or a specific issue we keep running into and we want to explore, we should absolutely explore it. There's always a land management bill that goes through, and typically.
well, when you're in
passes.
your travels, just in general, I mean, most cities would say, they want the growth, but they want to be able to do it smart, and just approving everything without the infrastructure that, years ago, we were able to, and this council has always worked with developers. We've never been, you're not doing it, and go, all right, how do we work this out so the traffic isn't so bad? But if you guys see, an avenue to have that conversation with the powers that be, it certainly would be something that we would welcome, have a little bit more of that control we used to have to make things a little bit nicer.
It would be nice to be able to have the developers have to go through the steps like they used to.
DCA.
Yeah.
DRI, something of that magnitude.
Or not even that. I'm thinking, I'm getting more macro. Let them go to St. John's first and get approved before they even, why are you coming in here if you don't even know St. John's is going to approve you? Why are you putting us in this position that by statute, we have to hear it? We can't deny it because you don't have all your other approvals. Where we used to be able to say, hey, you got the cart ahead of the horse. You have other agencies. Go talk to them. And that's what 2011 just ripped all that out. Makes it difficult. Concurrency obviously became an issue because of the way they look at when projects are staged. So we can't deny a project for that. And I realize why the governor did it. The governor did it to get things moving in the state, get people back to work, get things building. That's what he wants to do. But it becomes a little bit of an issue here when, and I'm the one most guilty of it, of every member up here. I'll go back to trying to do it the old way, and then I have Councilman Schenk reminding me that I can't do this anymore, and I really don't like that. I don't like it when he's right. But those are the types of issues, and that's a global issue. And I know when you talk to your representatives, or I corner them and I start talking about it, they just want to talk about anything else but. It's a lightning rod. It's the third rail.
Yeah, that's a huge thing.
The governor's going to veto anything that comes through, more than likely, on it. But that's the issue that we do face.
There are regional impacts, talking about East Orange County, that cross borders that we'll be having to mitigate. We don't have resources to do that.
Yeah, no DCA. No, I'm sorry, Keith.
If there's a way, a mechanism to help mitigate the cascading effects of those types of development, that's what we're looking for.
Were either any of y'all at the league conference just recently?
Believe me, yeah.
Yeah. Did they come up at all on this? Because in some ways, that would be a perfect subject for the league.
No.
To find irony in this, to hire someone like a tax watch or someone to do a full study and show a comprehensive. He did it, to the mayor's point, it was to spur things along, and we all got that as much as some of us didn't like it. But now, the economy's doing fine. Every city has its own unique challenges, and this is what we're finding now. This is where it's working. This is where there's a lot of hiccups. Because that could be impactful to the governor if he sees now the opposite of what he was hoping for is happening in certain instances because the process just doesn't just quite fit where we are.
And trust me, I get it. I mean, when you talk to the legislators and you ask them why it was done, I mean, they have 67 counties, 400 cities. Everybody's doing it different. It was very difficult if, the governor's out there trying to attract businesses that there's no one set of rules. Now, what they did was streamline it a little bit. They made it semi-easier to get through the process, but all it did was created more of a maze, I think, in the end. To Keith's point, I mean, we have the Eastern Regional Planning Council, the thing that Lee Constantine... Yeah, I mean, it has no teeth, though. It's a bunch of municipalities to get together, and they had a meeting a week ago. They told Orange County they did a bad thing, and Orange County said thank you and got up and left. So you need that that regional agency who looks at these projects that have a regional impact, because, when I went down to speak at the hearing, I mean, Orange County was thank you for your comments. I mean, when Deborah Pierre from our planning department went down, she got into a spar with Ted Edwards. I mean, she did exceptionally well, and unfortunately had Ted for lunch. He didn't like it, but they don't have to listen to us.
Well, Chris, if you see the opportunity, it really is, like when these 4,000 homes get approved. I mean, if Orange County had, the concurrency back, I'm sure they would try to require certain roads. And there's so many options down there that they could do with those. But I mean, 4,000 homes just to our south coming through here is going to be rough. But but just maybe a little teeth. And then the final thing that I had was, and I know you guys work on this before, it's this distracted driving, no texting. Yeah, this is like a big deal for me. I mean, and I'm sure we've all seen it. People are driving around, it's just like they're all driving drunk. As soon as you do this for 5 seconds, you're impaired. And it is, in my opinion, it's at epidemic proportions. I know you guys, it got a little far last year. I think, was it Senator, which senator was it?
Jeter.
Yeah. Well, he's been all over it, and he just can't seem to get it in. But, I get the personal freedom and, the free choice, and, you're responsible for yourself. But this is something really now that it's got to go. It was like the seatbelt law. Remember when the seatbelt law came? It was a secondary offense. Let's see how it goes a couple of years. Now it's a primary. They can pull you over for a seatbelt. And the same thing, we have a secondary offense on the texting with distracted driving, whatever, but we can't pull them over for that. And I got to tell you, it's out of control. I'm sure you guys see it. You're always driving down the road and you see the guy do a little of this. And then you get next to him and he's there doing this. We got to try to get, some teeth into that.
Well, a good thing on that topic that I'll share with you is law enforcement has been all over this for years, and it's pressing the legislature to make it a primary offense. Right. Sheriff Deming from Orange County, who is now the head of the Florida Sheriff's Association for the year, I don't know whether or not it made it on their agenda, but the Orange County Sheriff's Office has been one of the ones that's been most active in trying to make it primary.
Yeah.
And so we need to check with the sheriff to see whether or not the discussion is going on at the FSA level. And see what can be done. I mean, ultimately, the legislature makes the decision, but having cities and law enforcement all be of one voice on this thing can be impactful.
Right. Well, most law enforcement, like you said, Robert, they all want it. Our chief wants it.
Because they see them do it, but they can't.
Yeah, you want to be able to, and just for people's own safety. I mean, sometimes kids, they get the car, they're out there, but I mean, all one has to do is Google this and the horrible accidents, and it's scary. It's like everybody's drunk now. But I know last session, I think it moved a little bit, and then it died somewhere, and I don't understand why anybody wouldn't vote for that. I mean, that's something that a lot of states have it, and it's it's needed. So other than that, I mean, you guys are doing phenomenal. I mean, we're thrilled to have you here. My stuff is legislative this year, the grants and all other monies and things. You guys, I mean, you're doing amazing. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Guys, anything?
A couple of things. We already talked about the golf course earlier, but keep an eye on opportunities for us to work that.
Keith, can you just pull your microphone over? I'm not sure Barbara can hear you.
At the League of Cities Conference, these things come up just about every year. One is solar homes, and I think the new kid on the block is the Airbnb stuff. Whether folks are renting out their homes inside of neighborhoods where we have boarding house and stuff like that. So I'm not sure where all that's going, but if we keep an eye on that for us. And then the last thing is the good old utility relocation effort. Our cities to pay to relocate the utilities if we have to do a road project or something. I think that got watered down, but I'm not quite sure how it came out in the session.
Yeah, it did get watered down, and it passed. There was an amendment early on in the process that while the league and the counties didn't stop opposing, they stopped fighting. And it cleaned up the language to that point on roads. Roads, I believe, are still covered in kind of the old way of doing things. Doesn't mean they might come back and say, but maybe, but essentially anything that's public purpose. Now, roads are still public purpose. Other things like you saw City of Orlando dealt with that before the soccer stadium went private is they moved the stadium a little bit to the left or south, if you will, and they rolled right over major utilities, to which AT&T might have said, I'm not sure that counts as a public purpose. You're not building a road, you're just building a stadium. So but the roads and that, you'll still be covered. As far as I understand the final language of that bill, and that was why the league and the counties basically said, fine, we'll be opposed publicly, but we're not going to sit there and fight it. It was a little bit of a reach because other public projects, which would have otherwise been covered, are now more gray, and you're going to have to probably do a little bit of negotiating on those, where previously you would have been able to say, nope, we're not paying for that. But we'll keep an eye on that.
Anything else, Keith?
That's it.
Stephen?
No, there's stuff I talked to him earlier about, and I'll just say,
Aren't you leaving?
I'll leave.
Oh, yeah, never mind. Why'd I even call on you?
On the, just to keep a heads up on anything that, again, tax cuts that start popping up that are really, we're making the tax cut, but the legislators or governor basically taking the credit on the tax cuts that they're pushing down through us that become, year-to-year budget cuts that we have to work with. So the results are going to be, whether it's fees that they call, whatever, but make sure that those things aid it. And you do a good job currently of giving us the updates all the time on that. But again, it's the budget, although the numbers go up, the numbers are really going to stay the same. I feel like there's going to be another round of looking for ways to show that they've cut the budget, and again, it usually is at our expense that they're pushing the cuts down to. So.
Didn't mean to interrupt, sorry.
No,
In some ways, the required local effort will be where they have to spend some of their money. As long as, knock on wood, all of us are homeowners, but as long as property values keep rising, and knock on wood, frankly, if you're city or county, these revenues could be, they set a precedent last year that at the state level at least, they were not going to let the ROE rise with property values rise. So last year, I think it was about 200-something million as far as the impact that they cut. Now that precedent's there, they can't do it last year and say next year, well, we're not going to do it. It's sort of like the back to school sales tax holiday. Technically, they don't have to re-up it, but good luck if you've told people we're not going to let this. So from the state's ROE level, that will eat up a lot of the tax cuts because by all accounts, it looks like property values are going to continue to rise. Maybe not, into orbit, they'll continue to rise, which will in turn require the legislature to drop the ROE from the state side to match it, which would technically count as a tax cut, which would put, I think, a lot of other tax cuts on the back burner. Doesn't mean they won't go after others, and certainly the governor will continue to go after others, some of which probably they should look at, some of which they shouldn't, to your point, that I think the ROE would be where they have to focus.
That's it?
So are we proposing the same arrangement we had in the past?
I thought we were tripling it, are we not? Sorry.
Do I get to speak?
I think I was going to say,
I have a list. Am I running this meeting or are you running this meeting? I'm just curious. You and I already... Thanks, Keith. I appreciate it. We talked earlier about this, the dollar toll between 434 and Redbug. We need some help with the Turnpike Authority. Mr. Cobb and I went out and paid them a visit, and that's all we did is we really paid them a visit. We got nowhere.
Please add that to the work order. I mean,
Okay.
we're ready to jump on it regardless, but
Sure.
yes, sounds like we need to at least start having some meetings. And get
Even if they can just do a study and see how many people are making that transit so they could attach a dollar value to all this toll money they're going to lose. I mean, it's it is really just a inequitable toll for that movement. And I understand what they have to run the whole system, but it's $1 to go 3 miles, 2.5 miles. I mean, I don't think they charge that, but anywhere that I can think of.
Mayor, excuse me for 1 second. And, Chris, we get so much complaints about traffic, the roads are gridlocked, all this stuff. To send people up to 417 for a free toll would take such a huge headache. That'd be like just having a brand-new road there.
Well, when
That
there's
people-
election, you can convince some of these candidates running to make that an issue.
Well, that was part of the interesting thing about the meeting was after they told the two of us to pound sand and go home. And that's a kind way of putting it.
Those are the exact words that they're using.
They were
They,
mine might have been a little more colorful.
we were able to get their interest in if there was a way to improve access to 417.
Oh, that's a good point.
we were, and especially at both interchanges, we started talking about how the Redbug interchange, there's a lot of traffic weaving. Fortunately for us, there was a engineer in the room that lives in Black Hammock, and how he gets home.
Remember Josiah Bartlett used to go to church with us?
And
Josiah was there.
so they mistakenly allowed me to draw on their whiteboard.
Don't give a plan or a magic marker.
And so I drew our entire street network on the whiteboard and pinpointed, here's our problem. But there are some things, Redbug, at the Redbug interchange, I showed them about the hospital and how everything's interacting there. And I showed them about 434. And we have a safety study that's being done. There's certain things that are going to need to be done on 434. And they said, they actually, that was the one positive. They said, if you bring us issues where it improves the access, we'll help.
They might be able to either find funding in their budget, free up the money that we've committed to 426. We've committed $5 or $6 million down there. They said they may be able to take some money from their budget or another operating budget, free up our money, if we could use that money to improve traffic flow to the Greenway. So that might give us money to improve Mitchell Hammock.
Right.
So there were other possibilities. The PD&E study for 434, they may be willing to move that up because it provides access to 417. Another interchange at Winter Springs Boulevard is something Brian brought up. Some of the engineers in the room sat there and said, that's a great idea. The director said, maybe.
Yeah. We gathered, when I brought up the interchange at Winter Springs Boulevard, the engineers, I said, now I know you guys sitting over there, you're going to say spacing, but just hear me out. And then when we started talking about how our transportation system works and how it would make access to the Greenway better, and how it would make traffic flow through Oviedo better, east-west traffic flow especially, the engineers started, and the director's like, give us your stuff, get all your stuff together and give it to us.
And then, of course, she told me, of course, it has to be told.
But I mean, that was at least, when we walked in, we took the punch in the first round, but I think we were still standing, at the end of the fight.
In addition to tell most people no,
I
try to save themselves in trouble, but yes.
Our no began with an H. We had a few letters after it. So, Brian, maybe put that all together for them. Pension, are they leaving pensions alone up there right now?
So
What are they doing with the, how's this going to affect us?
I do know the Florida Sheriff's, at least one of their asks, they're going to have two asks this year. One of them's going to be for cost of living to be added back into pensions.
That's for FRS.
Yeah, for FRS. So,
Okay, we're not FRS.
right. But in general, they're always going to have those conversations up there. I don't know where it's going to go because the House and Senate are clearly on different pages on that.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, Keith, I interrupted you earlier. Why don't you take the floor? You were asking something about...
Just add how the contract's set up. Are we going to just continue it the way we've done it in the past? It's almost like a town materials contract, isn't it?
We have a 5-year contract.
Oh,
Okay. And so each year, what we do within the 5 years, Chris and I were talking about this earlier. Right now, we're good through June of 2018. Is what we're good through. But our contract requires us each year to sit down and to prepare a work program each year. And so that's why we get together around this time and prepare the work order and bring it for council. So they get their marching orders, and we know what we're going to be working together on over the next fiscal year.
So, Brian, does their current contract that we're going to approve on October 3rd take them through at least the governor's cycle?
It'll take this work order. The agreement is good
I understand
until
that.
June of 18. This work order will take us through September 30th, 2017.
All righty. Well, why don't we just make a work order that takes them through to 2018? That way they're covered all the way through the governor. governor only has 2 more years. They've got a great relationship.
It's still good, anyway. Just
The contract is good, it's just the workload is will change next year.
Okay. So they have a 2-year contract, or is it
Yes.
something that has to get renewed all the time?
No, we're good. We'll get through June of 2018.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah. Michelle was also on our team. She was unavailable to be here tonight. She and I spoke, and I actually didn't realize the length of the contract. I thought it was actually up in the next year. So
I just want to make sure, because of the relationships you've developed with our local representatives, everybody is terming out in a couple of years. So I just want to make sure that we have your team there, beyond that, of course, but guaranteed through that.
no, understood. Like I said, next 2 years are going to be good opportunities for this particular city up in Tallahassee if we go up to the right initiative. So, but to your point, if you want to make a motion to extend the contract out.
What?
You can't make motions at
I
a
think
work
that's your
session.
chance, darn it.
Well, one of the things Chris and I were talking about is...
Let me explain Robert's rules to you. We're at a work session.
Did you waive? Never mind.
Now, what Chris and I were talking about is this: since we're still inside the agreement term, is having their folks and maybe even talking to Lonnie about, okay, is there a way, since we're still in the term, that maybe we can expand the term and make sure that we can cover these things? And because I know one thing Lonnie will say, if we make it to June of 2018, then we've exhausted all of the renewals, and therefore we've got to go to the RFP process. So my thinking is that while we haven't exhausted the renewals, let's find a way to create an extension, because it's obvious that they enjoy working for us, we enjoy having them working for us, and so we should have the ability to continue the relationship.
Well, and it's not only that, it's results.
Yes.
They're measured on results, and their results are exceptional.
So that's the thing that I think over the next 2 years, that's going to be one of our jobs, is to figure out how we can continue that relationship.
Okay, great. Anything else, guys?
Good.
One last thing.
Go ahead.
I see Mr. Gray at some of the UCF Foundation meetings. And if the situation arises, it would be nice if you could advocate for a dialogue with Department of UCF on the golf course. Not saying it's going to happen overnight, but if talks go along and the situation arises, it would be nice to be able to have someone in our court.
I'm certain he would. We could as well.
Brian can update you on where we are in discussions with them. It's sort of a chicken and the egg right now. Until we actually take title to the course, I don't see any talks progressing, which I can understand on their end. They don't want to expend a lot of time, energy, and maybe dollars putting something together that doesn't happen. But yes, advocating from that side would be very helpful. Because I don't even think that side is aware that athletics is, I won't say far along with us, but has had so many conversations with us. What is the CFO's name? The number 2 from Dr. Hitt? Robin, do you remember?
Bill Merck. Bill Merck.
That was the last of the 4 meetings. Bill was there. So, I mean,
He's showing up.
We sort of died in conference, I think.
Well, it was, we were going to build a pro forma with our staff and their staff, and then we ran into hiccups with it. So then it became, when I followed up with it, it said, hey, once you guys have title, we're ready to talk. So, excellent. Anything else? Gentlemen, anything from you?
Thank you for the honor.
Go home to the wife and
job.
kids, and
Thanks.
thank you for everything, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming. Absolutely.
Thank you, Chris.
Robert, nice to see you. We don't get to see you quite as much as Chris.
Well,
Does that mean you're busier than Chris?
I'll use that excuse.
All right.
See you later. Take care,
This is in
guys.
the newspaper too every week.
No, that's true. That's right. We get to see Chris in the newspaper, not Robert. All righty, moving along, we're up to item number 2, comprehensive compensation impact, whatever report.
Thank you, Mayor.
turn it over to you, Brian.
Okay.
See how enthused I am about this one.
About a year and a half ago, I was talking with the directors, and I wanted to find a way that we could reward our employees who do good work. And not to say that not all employees do good work, they do. But we have employees that do extraordinary work, and I wanted to find a way to reward them for it. We established a multi-departmental committee of employees that took on the challenge, and they found a very good system out in Colorado. But one of the things we learned from the folks in Colorado was that you needed to get your pay and classification system up to snuff before you could do anything of a merit type system. And so we embarked on that. A request for proposals was done, and we've entered into a relationship with Management Advisory Group. They've been conducting this pay and classification study. Ms. Carolyn Long and Mr. David Lookingbill are here with us tonight, and they're going to present their findings from their study. Tonight we're going to ask for any input and direction from council. If you have any questions, we want to address your questions tonight. Here's my goal. My goal in this is to bring it to you at your September 19th meeting for approval. And then that will allow us to begin the implementation of this by September 30th. And what that means is that whatever increases come out of this will go into the employee's pay, and then the 2% FY17 cost of living will go on top of that. And so that's the reason why I'm going to ask you for approval on the 19th, is so that I can implement it before October 1st. This is going to be a phase. They're going to tell you about there's some phases that are going to have to happen. We're not going to be able to do it all at one time. But we are trying to do it in a way that we spread the wealth, so to speak, across as many employees as we can. And so tonight, we wanted to bring this to you in a work session first, so that you have an opportunity to talk with them. They can tell you about their findings that they've had through conducting the study. And then, I said, we'll bring it to you on September 19th for approval. With that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Long and let her do her presentation.
Great. Floor is yours, guys. You can pull that a little closer. They work pretty well, so
Thank you so much.
it should be.
Yes, it's on.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to have to turn, and I apologize for that, to be able to see the screen
No, it's
when I'm
understandable.
talking to you. But if we can have the next slide. What we'll cover is the study overview, the methodology, the steps in the process, and the results and the recommendations. Next slide, please. The study overview.
We can move you there if it's easier.
I think
why don't you
I'm
go over there and
gonna-
say, by the time you'll have whiplash by the time you're done. There you go.
Yeah, because that mic's wireless, and
Yeah,
it's
we'll
okay.
put you right there, it'll be easy for you.
Good idea.
You got the
There you go.
That's why Councilman Hinton gets the big bucks.
He used to be a DJ. He knows this stuff.
The collection and analysis of the information that came from the employees. We did an extensive orientation sessions where we made the attempt to provide an opportunity for everybody to attend. Of course, not everybody is going to be able to, but we tried to get that opportunity. Everybody had an opportunity to fill out what we call the JQ, a job analysis questionnaire. We did a market salary survey. We had input from us on who we felt were your market peers and competitors. We had input from an employee group that looked at our recommendations, and of course input from the administration to make sure we caught any jobs where the shoe was pinching and they felt they were having difficulties. We selected benchmark positions. Again, those were reviewed internally. We did an analysis of peers and competitors in your labor market. We created a new compensation structure that was based on what's been reported in your market, what the pay ranges look like, what the pay grades look like, and of course then looked at the market analysis survey that came back. We did the compensation structure based on job profiles. In other words, your information from your employees, while we may have surveyed for a certain job, that doesn't mean the work that they're performing is identical to what you're doing here. The market data is a reference point. It's not all controlling. It's obviously it's persuasive, but what's going on here in your internal relationships are what really mattered. And then we created a classification and compensation plan that's been reviewed. It's been reviewed by department heads. I've sat down with department heads. Connie, Robin have sat down and we've gone over it. We've got input back from them. And we're making adjustments based on their refinements and their recommendations between our hopefully very objective review and bringing together market and internal information, and then their boots on the ground. This is where we're having problems. So next slide, please. This is just a sort of quick overview of the steps in the process. The market survey, the proposed class and compensation plan, departmental administrative review, and then a final report with implementation options for consideration. So it's been a fairly lengthy process to get to this point. Next, please. David, I'll let you take over on study methodology.
Okay. During the study, we started off meeting with the executive team, with top-level management from the different departments, again, starting out to gather information, find out how your organization is fit together here, because even though you may have the same department names, everybody puts things together a little bit differently. So by starting out talking with department heads and other top-level administration, we get a picture of how it works here in Oviedo. It also helps us get some ideas of specific, as Carolyn indicated, specific places, specific titles where there are problems with recruitment, with retention, those kinds of things. And also internally, you know, are some of your titles too close together so that there's not enough incentive for an employee to take a promotion because there's not enough difference in pay for them to feel it's worth the additional responsibilities or, in their point of view, headaches. So we get all that information. Again, the market survey information comes in, and that gives us good reference points. As Carolyn indicated, the market is not controlling because the market really doesn't care how you've put your organization together. You know, we looked at information from almost 20 other organizations that were either geographically close or that structurally and organizationally were comparable in terms of size and scope of the operation. So you're going to get different ways that people do things and different ways that jobs fit together. So again, as Carolyn indicated, the market is a good reference point, but in terms of getting something that works for you here, it's not the controlling issue. We did have some group sessions to clarify where there were questions about what kind of work was going on in different types of jobs. There was some consolidation of titles because over the years, jobs change. Occasionally, levels get created that maybe are not as distinct as they could have been. So you can look around and you can see the same work being done essentially in maybe 2 or 3 different job titles. When we're lucky, those job titles are all in the same pay grade. When we're not lucky, they may vary by a pay grade or 2, which isn't that bad. But we can say, okay, based on the information from your people now, these jobs really are all the same. So we were able to do some consolidation there to come up with a few fewer titles than what there had been. Then this all gets pulled together into what we call a unified classification compensation structure or a pay plan. Again, before any of this gets finalized, we come back and sit down with department directors, show them the process we went through. We have a report that shows current titles, proposed titles, so they could actually see where there were consolidations that this title, this title, this title are now this title. If that fits, great. If it doesn't, explain to us why it doesn't fit well, and we can go back and make a review of that and see if there still is sufficient reason to break them out. If there is, great. If there isn't, then they stay consolidated. And then finally, and this was part of the process today, to get together with that employee committee, answer their questions, and begin the process of working with you all to answer questions that you may have. Market survey, we had 37 titles.
37 general titles.
General titles. Oh, and then, that's right, and then police and fire were on top of that for a total of 50-some. But in terms of the general workforce, 37 out of approximately 100. So we covered nearly 40% of your job titles, which frankly is a greater percentage than we normally cover in a survey because you don't usually need that big. The overall variance and everything, we looked, and at the midpoint, you all lagged by somewhere in the general vicinity of just a little over 8%. Now, the average...
This is for general employees.
Yeah, the average can be a little deceiving because you could have had jobs in there that were 15, 20% below. You could have had others that were right on, and it's entirely possible you had some that were above the market.
So you're going to reduce those, is what you're telling us.
If they are outside of market variation, then we would reduce it. If they are within 5% plus or minus, right in that area, we typically don't because that's as much market variation.
And
I'm
again,
just curious how you
Not
handle
much
that.
variation in the market.
And again, if within your organization, based on the profiles generated from your employee response, if those profiles support keeping it where it is, as I said, the market is a good starting point, but it's not controlling. So it can work both ways in terms of keeping something where it is, bringing something down,
Okay. That's
whatever. As part of this, we not only looked at the different jobs, but as we were doing that, we looked at individuals within the jobs, because in our experience, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that someone started out in the wrong job title. And as we looked at the information from their questionnaire, what may have started out as a secretary, clearly based on their duties and responsibilities is involved in accounting, so it should perhaps be an accounting clerk rather than secretary. So where we were able to identify those kinds of changes, we made those as well in our recommendations.
And jobs, as you all know, jobs change and job responsibilities vary. And while everything in classification and compensation world, we always talk about it's the job, not the person, there are situations where the person brings things to the job, and when that person has those skills or skill sets, and the city starts using those skill sets, it can cause the job to change. And if you're actually using the skill sets that a person has, then we're going to try and identify that and reflect that in their placement.
And in the last few years, we've seen an increase in this because, as I'm sure you're all aware, economically the last few years haven't been as good as we might like. I don't know about in your organization, but many of the organizations we work with, a position becomes vacant because someone leaves, retires, whatever. You don't fill the job. Maybe it's temporary, maybe it's relatively permanent. Well, again, we all know that work didn't go away. It got shuffled out to other people, and relatively quickly that can change the general nature of individual positions as well. We also collected market data for your sworn police officers and your certified fire. They were not part of this, but this will be information that will be available at negotiation time. That's good.
Next slide.
Okay, results and recommendations. We looked at all of the classifications. We reviewed the structure, and what we did was, based on the market information, the average pay grade width in the survey respondents was 58.3%, I believe. So we standardized your pay grade width at 60%. We standardized 5% between grades, so that now you or the employees can look and see if I'm 2 pay grades higher than this job, that's a 10% difference. If there's 4 pay grades, it's 20%. It's very easy to now look and see those internal relationships and figure out how the puzzle is put together.
I did want to mention one thing, and that's that the market data that we collected in the original work that we started was in 15-16, and now you're looking at implementation in 16-17, and also a phased implementation. So when we were presenting this phase of the implementation recommendations, we adjusted the structure by 2.5%, and that is the employment cost index, and the employment cost index is Department of Labor, Bureau of Labor Statistics. For local government, that is how much wages have shifted and during the 15-16 time period. And since we don't know what they're going to shift for 16-17, although we're hearing in your market area between 2 and 3%. So our 2.5% adjustment seemed to be a fairly good guess as a prospective adjustment for the structure. So we've been using what's called the ECI, the Employment Cost Index, retrospectively for prospective adjustments for many years, and it's generally pretty reliable. We've been through a bit of a roller coaster in the last 7 or 8 years, more so than we've seen in the past, but it's still been fairly stable. We had a number of years where it didn't even get up to 1%. So the fact that it's at 2.5 is, I think, a good, healthy indicator that the cost of wages has gone up. So this is sort of a sidebar statement, but that's reflected. And as you go through a phased adjustment, we hope to continue to work with you to keep this current, because anything we recommend is just the beginning. It isn't the end. It's the beginning of taking this and moving forward. So keeping your structure adjusted in the coming years as you go through your implementation phase. This is phase 1, and going forward for the second phase and the third phase through the budgeting process. We hope that we'll be able to stay with you and continue to maintain currency and respond to questions on jobs that change during that period of time, so you continue to have a good solid basis for recruiting and retaining your employees.
And that's why the initial phase focuses so much on the structure, is to give you that foundation for being able to move forward.
Next slide.
The implementation cost, we have about 100 job classes and 160 employees in your workforce. Recommendations, as we said, were to align the structure with the market for the 16-17 by doing the structure adjustment. We're recommending that you implement, and I think they'll be brought back to you shortly here, the new pay plan and structure, and that you begin the phased-in implementation of transitioning from your current employee salaries. Once employees move to the new pay range, then we also have to look at what's the impact on them, because when you migrate over to a new structure, what we're also trying to do is look at internal equity issues that have taken place over the years. And we have a full-blown internal equity analysis and recommend that that be phased in Obviously, to implement a new structure, you have to bring people to the new proposed minimums. Otherwise, you don't have a minimum. I mean, that's why it's the minimum.
Who did you compare us to?
I don't have the list. We had about 20 cities that were in your local market area that were peers or competitors, and then we had some that were out of your immediate region. But
And that list is in our agenda package here somewhere, Brian?
it will be. We have that information being prepared and sent to you, as well as the details on the survey. When we got the survey responses back on the jobs, we also did not include, all 20 didn't respond to every job, as you can imagine.
All right, let's move on.
Okay. And so we're recommending implementation to the minimum, and then moving toward the market point with a 7-year plan, and then 25 years to the range maximum. And for the first phase of implementation, to the minimum with a cap. And I believe that cap internally is within your budget funding for this phase of the implementation.
Okay, next steps. We are in the process of making changes to your current job descriptions based on the information that we got from the employees and their supervisors. Where there were new titles that hadn't appeared, we will create new descriptions. We will be looking at all of the job titles in terms of Fair Labor FLSA status and giving our recommendations. Again, we are not attorneys, so while sometimes exempt, non-exempt is fairly obvious, sometimes it's not so obvious, we always recommend that for those that are a little iffy, you check with your own legal staff and see. But part of our software gives a step-by-step, what we call due diligence process, where you can go through and answer the questions that are outlined under the FLSA as to whether a position is exempt or non-exempt.
Some clearly, there's no question about it. You have jobs at the
That's
top
over
end.
our pay grade, so let's get to your methodology.
Okay.
That there's others in this room who are going to worry about that. So let's get to the meat of this presentation.
Well, basically,
I'm sure we all appreciate all of the in-depth information, but that's for others. Now let's see what you want to do.
well, what we're asking is that you consider the adoption of the recommended new ranges and structure.
The information that we don't have yet for us to
That's
review.
right, the new ranges and structure. So,
Right, but- And as I mentioned, and again, I'm just going to ask the question, we don't have any of that information in our package because I really couldn't find much other than very basic outlines on how your methodology was done. I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. Was anything done to look at,
Isn't that two? Is that attachment 2 is the proposed?
The pay ranges were included as far as minimum and maximum.
yeah, but it was
within
only
the
on
pay
certain
structure.
classifications, it seemed. It didn't seem like it covered everything.
No,
At least it's in
It
here.
covered all the
It
jobs.
covered all of the jobs.
All the
that we-
positions were
that
covered,
we
yes.
have.
Okay.
It doesn't include those in the fire and police bargaining unit.
That's true, it was general employees.
It was just general employees. So you may be feeling like you're missing titles because you are, but those are subject to collective bargaining.
Okay. So what's not here is the supporting data.
Just the narrative. Yeah, basically,
And
this
and
is
you
a
will have
summary.
the full survey data also within the next day or so.
Okay. Good. That looks like you have another slide, so next step in the city, I think it was.
Right.
And again, this is, again, what Carolyn was saying, put the recommendations into place and then begin the implementation phases, starting with bringing people to minimum with a small decompression activity. And then as funding allows, and maybe you can even do mid-year funding of some of this, that will be, of course, your decision going down the road, but that's how the phases would roll out until you get to full
So you took all different classifications of employees and put them into what you feel, not necessarily what we've approved yet, what you feel is an appropriate pay range. So that's what I'm looking at here. So that's why each one doesn't have a specific salary, because you have an admin assistant, a code compliance
Right.
assistant, a concession coordinator, food service coordinator, blah, 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 in a range of $31,000 to $50,000.
Right, and these are titles rather than employees. There could be multiple employees in all of
But
those
what does the employee do to earn that title?
That
How is that title granted? Anybody can just be given a title, and then what I'm looking at here, they're just given a pay range. Doesn't mean they qualify for that
The
title.
placement of the job class, the title, is driven by looking at referential market or specific market, if that was one of the titles that was
Okay.
selected as a benchmark. The placement of employees in a title is driven by looking at the job analysis questionnaire and what the employee said they did, and then from that we're able to create a general job profile for the job and look at whether those people currently assigned to that job title appear to appropriately be there, whether we need a new job title where they might fit better in a different
The
title.
attachment 3 that we have, which really breaks down all the different, classes of jobs, accountant, senior accountant, city clerk, and so forth, the salaries that you have, the minimum up to the max, was that based off the 20 cities you surveyed?
Yes,
Okay,
that's correct.
okay.
Plus the standard other, again, the job titles, you basically standardized us to other markets in terms of pay that are localized, but you standardize the job classifications, obviously normalize them to what's out there, generally accepted as a
In most
title,
cases,
and
yes.
you normalize the people by, they said they did this as a job, they're listed as this, but we're really going to try to transition them over to a new pay, to a new title that more clearly represents what the work they're doing, and then again, standardize this out into the real world, into the market that we're in.
And again, placement within a pay grade is a combination of the survey and the profile.
Built by the person and the
Exactly.
supervisors that looked at it and examined
Exactly.
it with you.
And
you
how
went
that
through
fits
that and
into
said,
the
this is what they
structure.
really do, this is where they really fit.
And then the department heads looked at their whole departments to see if they thought that we had missed the boat on a job or a person, and if we had to go back out and get more data, or we had to take another look, then we do that as well.
So you guys standardize this out basically. Now the next phase is how we're going to implement this. Again, we take this and implement the standardization is really what we're asking today. We're going to implement this standardization across and take the methodologies, and then the next phase, and that's where you're going to come with us. The next phase is what you were talking about before. We're going to come again, and that's basically how the implementation process is going to happen. But this is clearly just, we've done the studies, we've normalized everybody, and we've put them in their proper places and their job titles to match the outside world.
But we don't know what outside world they've matched it to, because that's not.
Well, again, I'm just going to say, I'm going to
I
guess the Winter Springs, Edgewater, pick whichever 20 cities that are around, is going to guess that are in a geographical Central Florida region
And
down to
not-
the bottom.
And
All
within the data, so you
cities.
won't have to guess.
Right.
Yeah,
But
and not all cities are used to match all jobs.
Right, and
Where
some will have some.
Orlando obviously is a big player for many of your jobs, it's not a player for your department heads, because your department heads here and department heads in Orlando are not going to be paid the same. And so the market data is stratified to reflect, sometimes the market data, sometimes we'll report the market data, but the placement of the jobs is stratified to reflect.
Do you have cities in?
Let me do this. Let me go in order, and then that way we'll wrap this up. Councilman Britton, do you have any?
Yeah, I want to get straight. The process was to give
Then I'm going to come to
a
you.
survey to the employees, and they described their job. And was that compared to I would think, some sort of standard job description that HR has? We don't have.
No, well, you probably do. They were asked to tell us what they do, not what a piece of paper that was put together who knows how long ago says they might be doing.
Okay.
That way we have
First,
current
my boss would let me do that.
actual,
Well,
but remember, their supervisors reviewed it, so it wasn't
So what did they
just,
compare it to, besides what, is in their head? There's gotta
well,
be
no,
some
it's what
sort of
they're doing.
database of-
If I'm digging a ditch for 8 hours a day, I'm digging a ditch in 8 hours.
Knowledge, skills, and abilities. Isn't there a classification for a certain job that says this person should have this ability to do this job, this amount of knowledge?
But that's all based on what tasks are they performing.
Yes.
And you get those tasks from asking the employee and then having the supervisor verify, yes, this
So
person
we have
does
people
operate.
that are working outside their job classification, is that what I'm...
Not entirely, yeah, there could be. And that's how we find this out, is by not saying, what does your description say you're doing, but what are you really doing? And that's how we find, I'm just going to pick an example that very typically comes up. Heavy equipment operator, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Well, the reality is you probably don't. You have an equipment operator, and you maybe have a lead equipment operator that's being kind of a resource person. But, they try and set this up, okay, the 1 only operates a bucket loader, 2 operates a backhoe, and 3 operates a grader. Sometimes, but most equipment...
Violation of, I could probably think of a safety code.
Well, sometimes if you're dealing with CDLs, you may have that. But if you've got a person with a CDL A that's in a 2, and it says that you have to have an A to operate this piece of equipment, which is indicative of a 3, and you need that piece of equipment operated, and there doesn't have to be a 3 around, guess what?
That's not...
The person who has that level of CDL, regardless of what their title is going to get to operate that piece of
Well,
equipment.
what I'm getting at is there may be 2 issues here. One is we have people not qualified to do jobs, either through licensure or certifications, that may be doing it, or people that are overqualified to do the job that they were hired to do, regardless of what they may have been hired to do the job, but they got more qualifications. So that's what I think we need to reconcile maybe with the data we get. The other question I have is on supervisory, and this is from Orlando direction that we paid for. But is there a comparison of the number of direct reports for director in Oviedo versus Orlando?
No, we generally don't drill down to that level. What we're doing is we're looking for your department heads. We're going to be looking for the salary level for comparable sized cities, comparable sized organizations. And that's why I made the comment, though, Orlando is an important player in your local market for many of your jobs, but not for all of them. And you may be more in competition for some of your jobs with some of the organizations that are more your size. We don't want to only look at department heads, and this is an important point. I'm glad you gave us the opportunity to address this. You don't want to just look at right at your size, because if you have a vacancy, you want to have enough competitiveness in your pay range to be able to recruit effectively. Where you recruit in that pay range then becomes a compensation philosophy issue as to what you want to do, and in conjunction with what the manager recommends you do in order to attract an individual incumbent. It gets a little different when you get at the executive leadership level in the organization in terms of actual salaries versus your external market.
But there had to be some, at least a look at the organizational structure of the
Oh, yeah, right.
You might have a deputy city manager who happens to be over Parks and Recs and utilities as a director, and then has branch managers or whatever that actually run the departments, versus a director of Parks and Recs versus a director of other works.
Right, and you have deputy city managers, you have assistant city managers, you have assistant twos, and all of these can play different functions in different organizations or different roles. There is a sort of a common nomenclature out there, and again, having worked in the Florida market, and in your market area here for any number of years. I'm not going to tell you how many, but a long time. I really have done work for most of these cities, so it's not as much guesswork as it might seem.
Councilman Henkin.
I'm sure we're going to get the rest of the data soon, but some of the numbers I saw in my attachment 3 were the spreads of salaries. When you were comparing these 20 cities, can I ask, were you comparing counties in there too? Let's say Orange County, Seminole, obviously you mentioned Orlando. Are they part of those 20 in there?
They
There were
are
several
not
counties.
all for all of the jobs, though, again.
Right.
We may have gotten responses, but when we're actually doing the placement, we've got to look at which ones make the most sense for you. And also, I typically look down to see, I mean, this is just sort of an experience thing. If I'm looking at 15 responses for a job, and again, this comes back to knowing this market here, you guys so well in terms of your local market, I'm going to look, and I'm going to look down that list, and we aggregate it, we put it together by midpoint, and it goes higher and higher. So when you see it, it is an alphabetical by respondent. It's going to make sense to you, and it's arranged by the midpoint. But I'm looking, when I look down that list, I'm looking not just at the average number down at the bottom, but who are you competing with? What's being paid in your neighboring communities? It may be all well and good to look at I'm just making this up, what they're paying over in Lakeland. But for many of your jobs, that's interesting. But if I don't have to sell my job on my house and move to Lakeland, I'm more likely to go with somebody that's right here where I can just get up in the morning and drive 10 miles east instead of 10 miles west. So we're also eyeballing down to see where those jobs should be placed based on your competitors.
So when we get that rest of the information, we'll see the cities, because that
Yes, you will.
That's so important for us, because sometimes past salary studies we looked at, we would get things that really shouldn't have been compared to us. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like Orlando. I mean, Orlando, they pay crazy stuff down there.
Well, when Orlando, when you've got 10 or 12 responses, and Orlando's just one data point,
Yeah.
it's not going to pull the line that much one way or
Yeah.
another.
Yeah.
And it's not going to impact the line at all when you get to department heads, because you want some flexibility, and you want to be competitive in that area because you've got to replace people when they go or they retire. But on the other hand, Orlando is, you're not, there's many reasons why somebody who's a department head in Orlando wouldn't want to work here.
Yeah.
I can think of a million.
Yeah.
But
Well, we'll see all that. The picture will become a little
but
clearer.
make sure that you look at not just the average number, but look at the detail and look at what makes sense for where that job actually got placed. Because if it was mechanical, I could just put the data all in and turn the crank, and the report would come out the other end.
Right. Got it.
There's a lot of understanding what's going on in your market and with your city that is reflected in there.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilman Shank, anything else? I just have a couple of quick questions. When you have this wide range and you're hiring a new employee, where do you expect to start them?
That depends on the level of the employee, and it depends on the scarcity of the job, whether it's a hard to recruit, hard to retain job, whether it's an executive position. And once this is, hopefully and optimistically, once this is adopted, the city will have a hiring calculator. It's a very simple calculator that lets you put in the job title, the pay range, and the experience and education background of the incumbent, the number of years, and it will give you an absolute maximum range of what you should pay for a job, so that you're not going to be wildly out of whack. Now, obviously, that is just a recommendation. That's not an absolute, because you may have somebody in, if the hiring calculator says it should be $73,200 and you've got to pay $75 to get the person, well, you don't tell your best candidate, sorry, we're not going to hire you. But it's a very good guideline to make sure that you stay consistent with the integrity of the study that was done. It's an excellent question.
Yeah, I mean, I just see, $20,000 spreads. I see $60,000 spreads. I mean, I'm a current employee, I'm going to want the maximum because I'm going to tell you that, I'm the most
When that
experienced with
current
the job.
employee hits the maximum, then they're going to be coming back to you telling you that your salary ranges are out of line and they've maxed out and you need to reclassify them to a higher level. The maximum is great. It isn't always attainable.
I'm just trying to figure it all out here.
Yeah.
The question was asked when the last time we did this. Didn't you look at the old study that we did?
I did, yes.
Okay. 2003 or 4, we did it with my favorite city manager, Jerry Sieber.
Mayor, I believe, and Carolyn, correct me, but I believe that the pay range is configured over a 25-year lifespan, and then to get to the midpoint is 7 years.
7 years.
So 7 years to get to midpoint, and then from 8 to 25 to get to the max. So it gives you the opportunity to grow within the range. Obviously, when we're recruiting, we're out there looking at market forces.
Right, but now we're talking recruiting. I'm trying to figure out how we apply this to our current employees.
Well,
If you follow the software that we're going to be providing the city in the morning, if you updated the ranges and used
That's free of
the
charge, of
calculations-
course, right?
I'm sorry?
I said free of charge.
It is
It
free
is.
of charge.
There you go.
It is,
In perpetuity.
yeah,
Okay.
because.
So then we can plug everybody in who we have here, and it should come up with some sort of a
Well,
range.
what ideally you would do, once the playing field is leveled, is you would put in a performance management system rather than just relying on, years of service and people moving through the range based on years of
Right,
service.
so you would tie this somehow into performance pay.
We would, yes.
Because,
I would
the
recommend that.
employees who go above and beyond should be compensated
Absolutely,
more highly than those employees who don't. And,
absolutely.
I used to have over 100 employees, so I know the difference
You
between
knew which
them.
ones were working hard.
Exactly.
and
I knew which ones were working
you
and which ones
constantly
weren't.
pushing.
But this just, the band, it gives you the band and the range that, again, competitiveness that's out there. Whether it's 20, 60,000, whatever the band is, it could be $1,000. But that's the band of competitiveness for that title that's out there. So that either, yes, somebody could be really great, and if they're at the top of the band, it's either time for them to move to a different position again, and you set increments that encourage that. It's time because you're now at the top of the band. There's nothing more to give you in this band.
That is what.
For that job title, for that band, you may be
Right.
wanting to do more. Well, that means another position in the title.
If
That's all this
you-
is doing is setting up the band
It's
structure.
giving you a foundation. The implementation.
I didn't mean jump.
No,
I'm
that's
trying to
fine.
describe the band, you're
Is
banding
to
out.
try
That's
to
all.
level
The
the
band is
playing
fine.
field.
I have one last question. And this one just always gets overlooked with these studies, which is why I'm sitting here not so much being skeptical, but questioning. What about the benefit package? Has our benefit package been compared? Because here's the issue. Sometimes employees will always want pay, and, pay is nice, but, benefits in the long run are better. And giving somebody a benefit sometimes has a lesser long-term cost than giving them pay. Because with pay, you're matching Social Security, you're paying your workman's comp money, you're paying disability. There's things that are associated with raising someone's salary $8,000 or $10,000 as opposed to putting 3 or 4% more in their 401k or something like that. Did you look at that at all, or am I just looking at we want to pay everybody maximum?
In this, you're looking strictly at wages. Part of our Phase 2 report will show how your benefits.
Okay, but here's the problem with that methodology. How do we commit a budget to increasing pay if we don't know what the final cost is going to be with benefits?
The benefits package, and we've completed the market survey for the benefits package, and we tried to get as much from the same respondents that we looked at for the general market in the benefits package. But that's still consistently your local market area for benefits. And your benefits package is consistent with your local market for the public sector. You have some benefits that are better than private sector, generally speaking, and you have some where the private sector has opportunities to offer things where in the public sector you don't have those advantages because you have to have pretty much consistency. You don't want to get into a situation where you look like your favorite.
So you just said we don't have to change our benefit package, we're competitive. Is that what you just told
Your
us?
benefit package is competitive. We'll give you a detailed report on that with the showing your benefits compared to the market in either pie or bar charts as well.
You can understand my concern, of course.
Yeah, I
I
understand.
mean, you can't present half the pie and say, here, approve this half, because then what'll happen is 6 months from now, you'll be coming back and say, oops, there's this half too. And before you know it, it's $1 million over a couple of 3 years that you want us to commit to, and that's just not possible.
All we're looking at today, though, all this is levels and this.
No, I heard there's dollars committed earlier.
There is no
in the
dollars
system.
committed to this, is there?
We've budgeted dollars.
See?
Well, we budget, I know, but this is, all this does, if I go backwards in slides, we didn't implement putting anything into effect, we're just putting in the layers, and we took that, what they've just done, and you're implementing the layers, and because again, I need a lot more to say, the methodology of how you're going to disperse
see that?
That's my next phase, and I thought that's what, when you said you're coming back,
So do you have a list of employees that you're going to reclassify?
well, when you said you're coming back for the next phase, that's why I thought that was my next, would be where the questions I had on how are you going to implement this? What was the methodology of implementation of, were you attacking? Well, some people were clearly out of whack. Some people were on the other side were clearly, there's a small percentage that are at pay or above, a little above. There's here's the guys that are completely out of whack. What's the methodology of, giving out raises or, starting to make the journey towards 7 years, how that would all work. I'm going to assume that's coming in the next, when you come forward. Because again, this was, to me, was just, they've done the study, they've classified, we're accepting, this is going to be a new classification, we're accepting all of their work and that kind of stuff, and then you're coming back and going to say, now here's how we're going to implement what they've done. That's how I understood it. That's why I said I didn't have any of it.
I don't think that's my understanding,
Okay.
so that's a great question.
That's a great question.
What's happening on the 19th if we approve this?
On the 19th, we're asking that you approve this. And then step one is anyone who is not at minimum is going to move to minimum. We have to do that. We've got to get them to the minimum. If they're currently below the minimum, we've got to get them to the new minimum. Those that are already inside the pay range, then we have some other market adjustments that we're doing as well to get them at the point where they should be in the pay range. One of the things that we're looking at, and Robin, you may have to come up and help me with this one. There's
a lot of, I'm going to say, underlying methodology, even just what you just said.
right.
Okay, so there are, anybody who's not in a pay grade or not in the range currently, we have to get them there.
We have to get them there.
Is it just going to be, again, I want the methodology on it. Is it, well, everybody will start, it'll be a 1% or a 2.5% for all of them, or like I said, well, there's some gross ones, or there's guys who are grossly out of the pay whack. How do you, are you going to do it that way? Are you going to weight it that way? Things like that.
The first step is very easy. If the minimum of the pay grade is $20,000 and you're at $19,000, that person gets $1,000 to be at $20,000. So anybody in that pay grade who's below $20,000, you will commit to doing whatever's appropriate to get them to $20,000. Now, the decompression, that's the part that will go in phases. The first part, as I understand, and please, Robin or Brian, jump in if I missed the discussion earlier, but the first part, they want to make a little bit of inroads into the decompression. And so they're going to do some of that but cap how much an individual employee can get at that point to $1,250.
So if we're looking at,
So somebody's 5,000 below.
then
They
they
get
would get the
5,000.
5,000
They're
to
going
minimum.
5,000 up right above.
Right.
And then anybody else who's they're at that number, but they're not up towards the mid, they're 1,250 maximum.
And it could be that person below should be further in too.
They could be,
And so
yeah.
might get an addition to that to up to $1,250 additional dollars to bring them closer in line with where they should be.
It's really, it's not a secret squirrel occult thing. If you...
Well, it
No,
is.
no, no, I just want to
Yeah,
understand.
we're-
I have no problem.
We're
I
not
just want to try to
hide
understand
anything.
it.
If you're
And the
saying,
vastness of it. Again, how
if you're saying that it's...
bad are we? Or how
Robin, once you just walk them through it, like I said, my where I get lost in is when the 1250 gets applied.
No, I understand what
You
you're
know,
saying. So
let's
the
let-
1,250, go ahead.
Yeah.
So what we did is, based on the study, we looked at put all the general employees in the listing, right? We looked to see their current grade and where the study shows that they should be. We then said, okay, this,
So you reclassified everybody to where they now should be in the new classifications that are set up.
yes, sir.
And you put them through this software thing that they have.
Use the methodology they select, that they have, that said this is where you should be. You should go, you're at a grade 105 and you should be a grade of 105, but you make 20,000, you should make 24,000. So then the next process was, okay, this is the dollar salary that we make annually, this is what you should make annually. So in some places we have employees that may receive just to the minimum level a $500 or a $2,500 or $5,000. Okay, this brings them to the minimum level. Then from that point, if they've reached 7 years service, the methodology says you should be at market or midpoint of the range, of the pay range. So that dollar value is now equated at this dollar value.
Okay,
So-
I want you to hold you right there for a second.
I was going to do it too.
Right
but I knew you
there.
were.
Why? Because they had birthdays, do they deserve to be at the mid-level if they haven't earned it?
Well, they've been with this, okay, so.
That's fine. You know what? You could
That
have,
comes to-
you could,
Yeah,
you,
that's fine.
As you had said, part two was, again,
The performance.
Let me take this.
Yeah, go ahead.
You could, as an
I mean,
organization,
cost of living every year is one thing. I understand that.
you could, as an organization, say we are going to bring people only to the minimum because that's our only obligation. Okay? Why we choose essentially longevity is because that is the only, other than the hire date, that is the only objective piece of information we have on every one of your employees to indicate where they should be within the pay range. We do not ever recommend that somebody who finds themselves at the top of the pay range or near the top of the pay range after being in there for 3.5 years. We don't know how they got there, but we're
Right, but
assuming.
let me turn
that
that
it was
around
perfect.
on you. Let me flip it, okay? I'm the employee of this organization, and I know I'm going to get to the mid-range just because I've been here for 7 years. I'm going to clock my 40 hours. I'm going to go home. You're going to ask me to do something extra, and I'm going to tell you this because in 7 years I'm going to be at that mid-range.
Well, you're
So
not saying
where's
that.
the
No, we're not
incentive?
saying that.
You're just saying right now to
To-
normalize.
Right, to level the playing field.
Right, to get everything normalized for the current situation.
And then you figure out
7
how
years
to-
of objective
Okay.
data.
What I'm trying, all I'm trying to avoid is why should, certain
Hold on.
people,
I'll ask the next question before
Go
I
ahead.
say. Okay, so performance management system.
and I keep saying we're going to wrap this up, and then we keep continuing.
It is an important part of this.
Sorry, Keith.
The next phase is implementing a performance management system that then does that.
Right.
I'm going to jump ahead to the end of our discussion and say, so is that part of, I didn't see that on the slide, is implementing a performance management system.
That was the intent of this process in the beginning,
Mhm.
in order to develop a merit system or performance
To have the
management.
basis, right,
That's
to
right.
normalize that, we have the basis to get us to where we can and begin the implementation of a performance management system. But I'm going to say we're starting to take those steps.
Yes.
Should we have, I'm going to say, beginning the process of identifying, well, what's that performance management system? And again, it should be a goal up there, and now you can implement, that should be the last thing is, implement the performance management system so that we don't get to this situation, hopefully in the same situation.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Councilman Hankin
All that
has a question.
this is to level the playing field, to put you in a position, no matter what you do, whether you implement performance management, which we would highly recommend, but sounds self-serving because we have the best system out there, but we would highly recommend that you do
You know, the
that.
funny thing is the consultants 10 years ago told us the same thing.
That
But
was-
yet, here we are.
Yeah. You didn't do it.
No, but I just want to follow.
Well, wait. We were through a recession. We had our millage rate cut. So I know that we should, I'll take that as a slip of the tongue.
I wasn't.
I said it.
I was
So,
just
I said it first.
facetious.
That was me saying it facetious first.
All right, so when the mayor was saying his last comment, he was reading my mind, but I'm going to finish the question. So in my world, which is also with employees and everything, I hire on September 16th, 2016, I hired 2 guys to do the same job. And they know this plan is in effect. In 7 years, I started at 40,000. In 7 years, I'm going to 56. They know that. That's just the way the plan is written, okay? But
It's not, that's what he's going to say.
No, it's
It's
not.
just for this, it's a one-time normalization. It's
No,
right. It doesn't have to do with 7. That's what I'm trying to say.
no.
If you choose to do it that way, then you're right.
Right, but no, what I'm getting at, and this is the second part, what I'm getting at, all right, so there is now a start, a mid-range, and a high end, okay? So what I'm saying is these guys know in 7 years, if I, come to work and do what I do, I might get here or I can get here. One is above the charts in his work habits, and he'll do anything anybody asks, and the other guy is just kind of, I'm going to, like he was saying. So there has to be something written in there that we can control it, because you don't automatically get that raise unless your reviews and your manager said that you deserve those reviews.
And that's the comparison between the COLA and the merit. So
Right.
the COLA is the standard that we go
Right.
by right now, and
Yeah.
then we give all employees a COLA every year. So that would be their standards, whatever is.
This 7-year thing is just for now.
That's
for now,
One
right.
time.
One
To
time.
get it.
Exactly.
It's not
It was-
an ongoing
No,
thing.
it was built.
It's just as
That's
a
how
way
they
to
built it.
normalize and give credence to how else would someone who's been here 12 years, probably because they've been here 12 years, there's no other methodology that you can objectively look at to go, well, this guy's been here 12 years, this guy's been here 1 year, they have the same exact position. Again, they both...
To get rid of compression.
We both had to bump them up to the minimum because neither one of them was at the minimum. But this guy's been here 12 years, there's no plus. You bumped them both up. You may have bumped one more, but now this guy's, they're both making $25,000 a year. One was making 23, one was making 20. They both went up to 25 because it's the minimum. But what you're actually pushing down the guy who has 12 years experience. It's a one-time thing.
As long as there is a mechanism
Yes.
in there.
One-time. It's-
You know what I'm saying? There's a
Yeah.
mechanism in there
That's
to
the
take care
performance
of.
management
Right,
going forward.
and
This is just one time.
and that was the thing, that was where I started.
Right.
Was because we've only been giving general increases, and frankly, that's all we've been able to do.
Right.
And so I wanted to, same concerns, I wanted to
Right.
give those that are doing more than what they're being told,
Right.
the opportunity to get more.
Right.
And so, but like I said, we've got to take these first steps to get there.
Yeah, that's fine.
I got ahead of the game.
All right,
Didn't
well,
that
all
come
right.
out of, wasn't the original impetus that led to this study,
That's
the
what
committee to look at performance appraisal?
Yes.
And from that point is when they said, well, wait a minute, we can't overlay performance appraisal and.
Well, I'll just be very honest, some of us were very wary of this whole study and didn't like the cost of it. And so, when I get a PowerPoint for the amount of money that we spent and no backup data, I'm very disappointed. I want to see the book, I want the report, I want to see what you did, I want to see if you earned your money, and for me to get a 14-page PowerPoint after $100-something thousand, whatever it was, I'm not
I
impressed.
totally agree with you.
yeah.
I mean, I'm not.
I'm sure you did a
disagreeing.
great job. It looks
There
wonderful.
is a lot of backup documentation
Great.
and reports.
And you're going to share it all with us? And you're going to put
Yes,
5 books
absolutely.
together and give them to everybody?
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. I think you'll be very happy. And one of the things that, like I said, this study, before we got involved, it came from a committee, if I'm not mistaken, to look at performance appraisal. And that's why the study was done, because it was like, well, wait a minute, stop. to train, we need to level the playing field, and then we can overlay performance. And that's the point at which we came in. And of course, we recommend rolling all of employee adjustments into performance appraisal money. Once you get to the point.
And this is going to be an executive summary. This is going to be somewhere where I can sit down and any of the members can sit down and read what this actual action plan is. Because, you're going to ask us to approve something on the 19th, which is 7 days away, and we have half the information. It's frustrating.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's one of the concerns that really jumps out here is the inflationary effects a blanket approval like this might have. And you're telling us that within the budget we approved, we're going to do this next year?
We put some money into the general fund and enterprise funds 2 years ago for this study, for this plan. I have $125,000 in general fund and about 45,000.
And go towards wages?
And it has carried forward. Each year you allow that to carry forward to go toward that. It would be the first step in this.
Right.
So it would implement that to the minimum level for all the general employees, and it would allow that 1250 cap. So that would just be the first step to the phase, or to the process. You would still have to phase in several more years to carry the entire amount, or several more phases to implement the entire amount.
Well, what is the entire amount?
The millage rate we've
Yes.
approved, and we understand we're really not going to be amenable to up a millage rate to implement this program.
Right.
And, everyone asks, that's a great point. We'll just lay it on the table. And everybody in here can hear it, and I don't care if it gets repeated to every employee. Everybody asks us, we need more employees, we need more of this, we need more of that. Now it's we need more wages, we need more of this, we need more of that. It's choices, and I think that's where Councilman Britton was going here. If we start raising wages, don't keep asking us for more employees. Everyone's going to work a little harder, I guess. So it's a balancing act. The second bit is if the money you have is phase one, what's the total cost of this? There's nothing in here that tells us what the total cost is if we implement it solely across the entire playing field. I think that's information that we need. I think I'd like to see what the performance management is going to look like. I'd like to see what our benefits are going to look like before I approve anything. I want to know what this is going to cost over long term, so that way we know what we're implementing. I'm not saying we're not going to implement it. I'm not saying that our employees don't deserve it. I'm not saying that they didn't give us blood, sweat, and tears over all these years and that we shouldn't be doing this. It just, for me personally, I just want to see it all and see how it all fits together.
The other thing is you don't start it. You want to have
Yeah, and then not finish it.
Like you said, we have enough, you're saying, for the first year to implement this phase. What's the estimates again? We should have estimates of what the next, what was it, a 7 year to get us to the middle?
No,
7 year to get us to,
we were actually hoping for the 3 to 5 years, and I think the phasing, according to whether or not we're able to phase any at mid-year and in the new year, again, according to available funding, would change the spread. So it does change.
because I thought it was like 7 to 25 years. The numbers were
Oh, that's just at the point, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
that.
a transition.
That was the
leveling.
transition, right, the transition of everybody to midpoint was a 7 year plan. Well then, what's that 7 year plan look like and cost to me? It's essentially what he says, but it's like, well, what the first
And
year
we
you have, you obviously know what this one is, and you can make estimates then.
Right, we
I'll
can
do
we
that
can
7
run
years,
the money is no issue
Right, exactly, and that's
report.
what I'm saying. And
We
that's
can
what I'm
do
saying,
that and show
What will
you.
it be costing
Yeah.
to continue this? Because again, I don't want it, the other side of it is, we are doing all this, and I understand, it normalized everything, what would it take? I'm fine with that part, and I don't want to start laying out to employees, okay, here's the first year, here's what we were talking about today, and on the 19th, and here's the plan, and we implemented a performance management system, but we can't even do, maybe we'll do the second year, but wow, the third year.
Yeah, then we don't
And performance management is totally thrown out because we're not even getting us to the minimum if we don't see those steps. What are they going to look like and prepare ourselves for? Listen, this is the preparation. We're going to see by the 19th, here's what to look for next year. This is going to be next year's bill and the next year bill and next year to get us to that midpoint. And that doesn't even include performance management, which, again, that's just getting everyone.
Or benefits study. I know she's saying the benefits.
She's saying benefits
but
and
let's see it from the
No, I
consultant.
understand. I'm just saying, it's.
Councilor Britton, go ahead.
One thing I want to make it very clear, this isn't about our employees. I see employees back there. We appreciate, we want to do whatever we can for our employees, but it's our job to make sure that we can do it and do it right, okay? You guys do a great job, and we'll go to bat for you. We've done it for the cops. We'll go to bat for you any way we can. This just came up as kind of a surprise to me, and I think some other ones in here, and how quick it's coming at us.
I just want to set false expectations. That's what I said. I want to know.
I
I want to know what it is that we're looking at, but I also want to set false expectations that for employees that this year, hey, this year we're going to bring everybody up to the minimum levels, and we're making expectations that we don't even realize that we're making yet, and that then employees next year are upset because we can't in some way meet those, or 2 years from now can't meet those expectations. I don't want to set that kind of thing up either. I want us to know what it's going to look like so that we're very aware of what our steps are going to be when we have to make them.
Councilman Britton hit it right on the head. We obviously, and as the mayor pointed out, during those recession years, these guys were wearing multiple hats. I mean, those were really hard times. So now we gotta rebuild, and as I always talk to Ms. Collins, we need those recruiting tools, and this is part of the whole thing. But we just, once we see the big picture, it'll be easy. And please, we probably terrorize you tonight. Don't walk out here. We just asked a lot of tough questions because we want to make sure it's right, but we don't have enough really to say, wow, let's just go dive in. But I think when you send us the next round, then we can make a little bit more,
And I think something you should keep in mind, too.
Terrorize is a strong word. I think we interrogated you.
It's all right, we've had worse. Something to keep in mind, too.
Well, there's some in this room that can tell you that I haven't really gotten started yet.
You're not even.
I've been very nice tonight.
Keep in mind, too, I've been hearing 2% across the board. That's going to take a big bite out of what you might have spent with further decompression. So even though we give you that money is no issue up front, and going to make something up that says it would take $1.5 million to fully decompress, and with the $1,250 cap, now it's taken $500,000. So now your 2% is going to take money out of that difference. And as you do that kind of thing going ahead, it will continue to take a bite out of that. So there will be offsetting
but you
things.
still have cost of living, though, that you have to take into effect. I mean, you can't just assume that 2% is going to take a bite out of what you want to implement. I mean, people are entitled to a cost of living increase.
Are they?
May I make a comment?
That's your decision.
Yes, it is, and that becomes trying to get to the point where your compensation philosophy will reflect where people fall within that structure. If you have a structure adjustment for your pay plan of 2%, and people fall off the bottom because their performance does not warrant any move at all, then you have a pretty good indication of what should happen. I'm not suggesting that any employee here would fall into that category, but that is where those dollars can be directed toward rewarding performance rather than rewarding longevity. So our goal in terms of trying to put out a structure and a plan is to always be driving towards something that's based on performance, where all of your compensation dollars would be able to be allocated toward performance. If people fall off the bottom, well...
But then you've got to run into, and again, this is just going to keep going on and on and on, but, pay performance is great. But, I mean, that's the way I think pay should be given, but then you need a structured formula on what creates pay for performance. Because
Absolutely.
then it becomes subjective, and then it becomes teacher's pet. And
I think we should ask the school teachers and
Yeah.
how that all
But
works.
anyway, I'm done.
All right, good.
I've asked enough questions. Anybody else have anything?
So we'll get to the next step soon,
Very soon.
right? Okay, thank you so much.
I hadn't planned on being here on the 19th, but I'm going to be here in the morning.
If we have questions, well, we don't have a report yet, so.
Is the report that you have, is it paper or is it electronic? Do you have it all?
It's electronic.
Okay, good. I like mine
Can be
electronic.
distributed
I hate
electronic.
paper.
She'll email it to you guys.
Keith probably wants a book, but I'll take mine.
No, I'll take this
He
electronic.
wants his books.
I'll take electronic.
14 points for me.
Can
I'll
read.
put one book in the chamber, so that will help.
Yeah.
in the office.
Don't print it, just electronic it out.
That's fine. Perfect.
We, how many
It's
pages?
going to be relatively lengthy even with only 160-something pages.
Is there an
That wouldn't be
exec,
unreasonable to think it might be that many pages.
is there an executive summary explaining it all? Is there?
There
Can you
is
put
a-
together an executive summary before you send it out?
I can't do that tomorrow. Otherwise, I could have the report to you by tomorrow. But I can't summarize. There's like 3 sections of narrative that talk about the methodology, a section on the market survey, and another, an introductory section. I can't summarize that into 2 pages by tomorrow. Otherwise, I do have
An
everything.
executive summary is a little bit longer than 2 pages,
You know,
depending on.
sometimes people only, it's not a lengthy narrative. Most of it is tables that show the data in different
Yeah, questions,
ways.
we'll get it tomorrow.
All right, cool.
Robin has it to send it to us tomorrow, so she can get it to us tomorrow.
It'll be there tomorrow. I'll have it to you.
How long do we have?
They'll send it to me tomorrow,
How long do we have?
so next week, so Wednesday.
Actually, she doesn't know it, but I sent the letter to Mount Dora telling them that she's not coming.
You're done.
When-
Next
I'll
Wednesday
let
is
you
your
date
last day?
tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
All righty. Anything else, guys? I'm done. We beat this dead horse. Anything else, Brian?
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Yes, council, if you could keep your calendars clear, I'm going to need an executive session coming up. Hopefully,
No. Just no is the answer, believe me.
so
What date?
if we can try, I may try to do it on the 19th, but if not, we need to do it very soon.
So as long as we got to be here, why don't you just do it then? Could everybody come in a half an hour? How long?
Because
do you
we
need?
have the CRA meeting.
CRA meeting.
Oh, we got a
before the
CRA
19th.
meeting on the 19th, too?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
We can do it. We have, it's going to take 4.5 hours.
It shouldn't. Can you, I worry more about you and your schedule. You could probably be here if I set it for 5:30. Okay.
5:30 on the 19th?
Yeah.
CRA at 6, and then the council meeting?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, good. 5:30.
Okey-doke.
Thank you.
All being
Thank you
said,
so much.
anything else,
Appreciate
Robin?
No, sir.
Brian?
We,
Nope.
we have the seal, you're going to take that